The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as the human delegation entered. Assel walked with measured confidence, her dark eyes scanning the assembled representatives of 47 species. Beside her, Farah carried a simple metal case, his expression unreadable. They were the first humans to stand before the Council since Earth had been discovered 3 cycles ago. Ambassador Thelrax of the Korthian Empire leaned forward, his crystalline exoskeleton refracting the chamber's ambient light into rainbow patterns. Humans, his translator rendered his clicking speech into standard galactic. We have studied your species extensively. Your physiology is unremarkable. No natural weapons, no enhanced strength, no telepathic abilities. Yet our reports indicate you defeated a Kragnor raiding fleet with a single colony ship. Explain. Assel smiled, but there was steel in her eyes. Ambassador, you're asking the wrong question. Enlighten us, Counselor Veshina hissed, her serpentine form coiling tighter on her suspension field. You're asking what advantages we have, Assel continued. But survival has never been about advantages for humanity. It's been about spite and improvisation. Confused murmurs rippled through the chamber. Farah set the metal case on the presentation platform and opened it, revealing what appeared to be random debris. Broken circuit boards, a damaged cooling rod, some sort of agricultural fertilizer, and duct tape. 3 months ago, Farah began, his voice calm. The colony ship Perseverance was transporting 5,000 civilians to New Bangalore. We were unarmed, a civilian vessel. The Kragnor assumed we'd be easy prey. The holographic display activated, showing the Perseverance, a massive cylindrical vessel designed for comfort, not combat. Then the Kragnor fleet appeared, 3 warships bristling with plasma cannons and missile batteries. By every military calculation, Assel said, we should have died in the first volley. So how did you survive? Thelrax demanded. Farah picked up the broken circuit board. Our communications array was damaged in their opening attack. We couldn't call for help. Our engines were crippled. We couldn't run. He held up the debris. So we did what humans do best. We improvised. The hologram showed the Perseverance's engineering deck where dozens of humans worked frantically, tearing apart non-essential systems. We ripped out the cooling system from the hydroponics bay, Assel explained. Farah here, he was just a passenger, a chemical engineer, realized we could superheat the coolant and vent it as a thermal smokescreen. It bought us 20 minutes. 20 minutes, Veshna said dismissively. Against Kragnor warships? 20 minutes was enough, Farah replied. Because while they were blind, we were rebuilding our point defense grid using parts from the entertainment systems, the medical bay, and the waste recycling plant. Every passenger became an engineer. The chef, the teachers, the children, everyone contributed. The hologram showed an elderly woman soldering connections while a teenager calculated firing solutions on a tablet. A father and daughter team jury-rigged capacitors from kitchen equipment. Impossible, Thelrax stated. Military-grade weaponry cannot be constructed from civilian components. Assel's smile widened. That's where you're wrong, Ambassador. It wasn't military-grade. It was barely functional. The targeting computer was running on a child's gaming console. The power regulators were from coffee makers. We duct-taped half the connections together. But you're saying it worked? Another counselor asked, incredulous. It worked, Farah confirmed. The Kragnor came through the thermal cloud expecting a helpless target. Instead, they found a ship that had turned every exhaust port into a weapon. We fired superheated plasma from the waste system, electromagnetic pulses from overloaded medical scanners, and kinetic projectiles, literally frozen sewage from our agricultural launchers. Several counselors recoiled in disgust. Assel continued, it wasn't elegant. It wasn't efficient. But when their shields calibrated for military-grade weapons encountered frozen waste traveling at .03 light speed, they didn't know how to respond. And the spite part? Veshna asked. Farah's expression darkened. The Kragnor captain broadcast a message demanding our surrender. He said humans were weak, that we'd beg for mercy, that our species deserved extinction. He paused. That's when our captain, a 70-year-old former freighter pilot named Chen Wei, broadcast back a single message. Come and take it. The hologram showed the battle's climax. The Perseverance, leaking atmosphere and burning in a dozen places, somehow maneuvering with improvised thrusters. The Kragner warships, confused by unconventional weapons and tactics, making critical mistakes. Captain Chen used the ship's rotation to turn our damaged sections into shields, Assel said. He vented our water reserves as ice particles to create a minefield. When the lead Kragner ship closed for the kill, he rammed them with our cargo bay, which we'd filled with every explosive chemical we could find and rigged to detonate. A suicide attack? Thelrax asked. A calculated sacrifice, Farah corrected. Chen ejected the entire cargo bay section 30 seconds before impact, then used the explosion to propel us away from the other two Kragner ships. They were so shocked that a prey species would fight back with such ferocity that they retreated. Silence filled the chamber. Finally, Counselor Veshna spoke. You destroyed a military vessel with coffee makers and sewage because you were too stubborn to die. Exactly, Assel said. That's humanity's deadliest weapon. We don't accept defeat. When you take away our advantages, we improvise. When you try to break us, we become spiteful. Every human on that ship knew we might die, but we all agreed. If we were going down, we'd make them regret attacking us. Farah closed the case. You asked what makes us dangerous. It's not our technology. You've seen it's decades behind most of yours. It's not our physical capabilities, we're average at best. It's our psychology. We're the species that looked at fire and decided to control it, that stared at the ocean and built boats, that gazed at the stars and promised ourselves we'd reach them. We're the species that invented the phrase, "Hold my beer and watch this," Assel added. We don't need perfect solutions. We need working solutions, and when someone tells us something is impossible, we take it as a challenge. Thelrax's translator remained silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his tone had changed, carrying something that might have been respect or fear. The Council will take your words under advisement. But tell me truly, humans, what happens when your species has resources? When you're not desperate and improvising? Farah and Assel exchanged a glance. Then Assel smiled, and this time it was genuinely warm. Ambassador, I suppose you'll find out. After the Perseverance incident, Earth's military started asking our engineers a question. What could you build if you had proper materials and no safety regulations? Veshna pressed. Let's just say, Farah replied, you really don't want to find out. Because if we can do that much damage with coffee makers and spite, imagine what we'll do when we're actually trying. The council chamber erupted in debate as the human delegation departed, leaving behind only questions and the unsettling realization that humanity's greatest strength was also their most terrifying trait. They simply refused to accept that anything was impossible.